Hey there! Before we start the podcast, I need you to put down that wavebird and listen up.
I need money.
For a tenth of what the price of that wireless GameCube controller costs,
That should be like $5 if you got it off Shop Goodwill.
you can support me here at the podcast of Two Consoles Too Late.
I need to buy more games.
Your support gets bonus content like additional episodes, Discord server access, typewriter manifestos, and personal shoutouts on the airwaves.
I actually have a typewriter.
Vote on Patreon polls to see what video game I talk about next.
Nothing on Atari 2600.
So go to patreon.com/2consoles2late because what the world needs is more Stick It!
Hi, everybody.
Maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
And constant crises have shaken the entire world and have threatened in each case to bring on the gigantic conflict which is today, unhappily, a fact.
Non-programmable weapons buttons. Customizable feedback software.
Don't just buy a new video game. Make one.
He doesn't have a PlayStation 5.
That's because he's Two Consoles Too Late.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Two Consoles Too Late podcast. It is I, Jackson Keebler, and I am Two Consoles Too Late. In this episode, we are looking at the hack and slash medieval action adventure game Draconus Cult of the Wyrm. A fun little game that is almost 25 years old that asks the question, what is a worm? And over on Auction Alert, we're going to take a look at what's to be had for the Sega Dreamcast these days. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go. So before I jump into the meat and potatoes of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, I have to do a Stick It. And Stick It is going to... I'm going to give it to myself. Last week I went to the North Point Flea Market, aka the Dirt Mall, to do some video game shopping, and I took along my GoPro POV system to get some footage. And I got some really good footage. I ran across my old neighbor, Kenny, to put that in perspective. If Pat Country has Frank when it comes to flea market madness, I've got Kenny. He's a picker, fun guy. He's always searching for gold. Anyway, he was working a booth, and it was just nice to talk to him because he's always, wondering if I'm selling stuff on eBay and what have you. So I got footage of him, and then I got footage of this guy picking up a stack of Dreamcast games, and one of the games was Egg Elemental Game Gear. No, Elemental Gimmick Gear. I'm sorry. No, Game Gear is a handheld for Sega. Anyway, so he picked up the stack of Dreamcast games, and one of them was Egg, and that game I later found out to be $100, and I missed out on it, so I was really frustrated about that. So I wanted to give that guy a Stick It, but it's my own fault. But anyway, so I got home and I started putting together this video. I decided to delete unwanted files off my computer, and somehow I deleted the entire video. So I spent 3 or 4 hours putting together this video, only to have the whole thing lost. I still had all the raw footage and just re-edited the entire thing. But at that point, I was just so fed up, and frankly, it's not a lot of people watch the Flea War videos. But so I'm gonna get back to the flea market and start making those stupid little videos. But to myself, for deleting the video and missing out on those Dreamcast games, I have to give myself a
Stick It!
All right, a little background on Draconus Cult of the Wyrm. That game, just the name is a mouthful. It was released on June 22nd of the year 2000, so we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, although I don't think we're going to see any re-releases for that anniversary. The game was released in Europe, but it had a different title, a title I much prefer. It was just simply called Dragon's Blood, and that just, that's simple and to the point. Whereas Draconus Cult of the Wyrm is a mouthful, and not a lot of people know what a worm is. Wyrm. And that's an old Germanic word for dragon. And as the story of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm unfolds, you find out that there is the followers of the final dragon boss named Excalith. So anyway, this game was developed by Treyarch. If that name rings a bell, it's because their bread and butter is now Call of Duty. But this is way before Call of Duty. And that Treyarch developed this game, and to have Call of Duty so successful and this game not be as successful, kind of had me scratching my head. And this is, Treyarch before they were acquired by Activision. Draconus Cult of the Wyrm received a rather low score from IGN of 6.7, and other scores that I saw put it around the 70th percentile. So this game is not a very high scoring game, but so I did not have a lot of high expectations from this title. But as I began to play the game, I had my Dreamcast hooked up to my Vizio flat screen here in studio, and the game was unplayable. It was like something about the graphics. It was so dark that I couldn't make out where I had to go, and I couldn't see the enemies on screen. So I went on the YouTubes to see if this was me, like, was it the development of the game, or was it, something I was doing wrong? And I did find one YouTube video where somebody was talking about, they had the same problem, and basically you just have to adjust your flat screen to your Dreamcast so that you can make this game playable. And for the first time, I actually thought, it'd be nice to have a CRT. I'm always acquiring CRTs, but I'm also reselling them for profit. And I do not own a CRT. It's just one day when I expand the Two Consoles Too Late Studios, I will have a CRT that I'll be able to hook these retro game consoles up to. So the first hour of playing Draconus Cult of the Wyrm was completely unplayable, but once I made the adjustments, everything was fine, and I was able to actually play the game. And as I played the game, I got serious thumb fatigue from the Dreamcast controller. I don't know what it was. It was like the left analog stick on a Dreamcast controller. I found myself sort of stretching to reach it. So I actually had to switch over to the Mad Catz controller that came with my Dreamcast. And I found that a lot more pleasurable. So I think it's funny that I found a third-party controller better than the OEM Dreamcast controller. So as you start out Draconus Cult of the Warrior, you can either play as a guy or a lady. You can either play as Cynric the Warrior or Eowyn the Sorceress. Eowyn is less powerful with a weapon, but she is an excellent magic user. For my playthrough, I chose Cynric the Warrior. Their dialogue stays pretty much the same, and they play the same quest. There are 15 levels to Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, and within those levels, there is really no room for exploration. They're not very expansive at all. The camera that follows your hero is rather crappy, and the controls themselves are tank controls. So we're talking something like a Tomb Raider experience here, but not as good as Tomb Raider. As I was playing the early levels, the terrain of the levels, there's way too many hills, and the actual, I don't know what it is, the frame rate of the game suffered because of the graphics of these levels. But as you play through the game, you can upgrade your weapons. You can upgrade to have a sword, an axe, or a mace, and the amount of damage you do with those weapons increases as you play on. And you can also upgrade your armor and your shields as you progress as well. And there are elemental magic spells, earth, air, water, and fire, and those spells, once again, can be upgraded to do increased damage. So as an example, the final offensive upgrade that you can do with your weapon is something called the Berserker. And the Berserker is how I killed the final boss, Excalith, the dragon boss. I killed him in something like 4 hits. It was something very anticlimactic, but you can upgrade your offense, your defense, and these 4 different elemental spells. The enemy AI of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm is very bad. The various enemies just stand there, and then once you get close enough, they just run up to you and try to kill you. And they are easily defended. You just run around them using the strafe buttons and then just stab them in the back, couple hits, and they are dead. And depending on which enemies you kill, they give you hearts Zelda style. So the enemy AI of this game was not very good, along with other things. There are jars and boxes and crates throughout the various levels, but they are there only for decoration. They do not contain any sort of items like they would in perhaps like a Zelda game. The in-game map that exists for every level is not very good. And the one thing I liked about the in-game map is that it was easily accessible by pressing the left and right trigger buttons and the A button all at the same time. And the in-game map would come up and show you your objectives. And the objectives were simply marked with a red dot. Once you completed the objective, the red dot turned into a green dot. But the in-game map itself was very bad. It was kind of hard to tell where you needed to go and what was what. But in the game, there are in-game saves. Yes, there are save states in this game. And I unfortunately didn't realize that until midway through the second level, after having to restart that level a couple times. I thought when you went into the menu, there's this menu that says, create, I forget what create a mark. And I thought, you put a mark on the map. No, when you created a mark, you were creating an in-game save. So once I figured that out, that helped out greatly because I love my save states. Once again, the melee combat of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm was not very good. This was a button masher, especially when there was multiple enemies trying to kill you at once. There were combos that you could perform. I saw them in the manual, but I didn't try to master any of them. I think the best I quote-unquote mastered was the thrust, where you just pressed forward and attack and you would thrust with your sword. Throughout the game, there are blue and red wisps. They're like little fairies. The red wisps would be a large health refill. I'm not sure of the exact HP. And the blue wisps, after you acquired 5 of the blue wisps at the end of the level, you could level up one of those categories, whether it be offense, defense, or one of your elemental spells. There is a strategy guide out there for Draconus Cult of the Wyrm. I did find a copy on eBay. It was $38. I think that would have been hugely helpful in trying to find these wisps because I was having a lot of FOMO that as I was playing the game, I was missing out on these wisps and I wouldn't be able to upgrade my character enough. But for the most part, I think I got most of the ones I could find because they were bright enough on the screen that you could actually kind of see them at a distance. So I give the game an out for that. The life meter of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm is numerical, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it, but once you complete a level, your life meter goes up, and the number displayed goes up by, I'd say, about like 1,000. But as you attack enemies and as enemies attack you, little numbers pop up saying how much damage you are doing to them, and there's really no rhyme or reason to the amount of these numbers. I'm not sure if different attacks would do greater HP hits. So I found that very frustrating. It's trying to be an RPG, but it's not an RPG. So why this numerical health meter system, I have no idea. This game is very technically challenged. The frame rate is really bad. One example that, a podcast does no justice. There are ladders in certain levels, and after you climb the ladder, for some reason, I don't know why, when you reach the top of a ladder, you would just do a somersault off the ladder onto the level that you reached. I don't know if they just didn't know how to program the graphics of somebody reaching the top of a ladder, or they just thought a somersault looked cool, but it was just stupid. Draconus Cult of the Wyrm was very technically challenged. At certain spots, if you strafed left or right and you hit a bump, you could jump clear to the ceiling. And one level, I had a lot of fun just sitting there trying to see how high I could jump because the game was just that glitchy. But the one place I would say where Draconus Cult of the Wyrm really stood out was in the voice acting. A talented group of voice actors. However, the script and the dialogue of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm was really bad, and we're going to take a look at that here. In the first 5 minutes that you play the game, the tutorial opening level, you're helped by an elf named Ann Soren. And Ann Soren is voiced by none other than George Takei from Star Trek. Yes, Captain Sulu. So in the first 5 minutes of the game, I had really high hopes that they got George Takei, of all people, to do this video game. But the other voices are David Anthony Pizzuto, who does the voice of Sinric. David Anthony Pizzuto, although sadly passed away in 2012, he is known for his gravelly voice, and he has voiced other video games, most notably, I would say, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And Tony J was the voice of the narrator Stendhal. And Tony J has done numerous things in the video game realm. I would say most notably the original Fallout. But sadly, Tony J passed away in 2006. So if you were a voice actor on Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, your life expectancy wasn't too good. But good old George Takei, he's still banging. So we got him. And the voice of Eowyn the Sorceress was done by Tasia Valenza. So right now we're going to take a look at the voice acting of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm because I cannot describe how bad it is. So let me set up our first audio snippet from Draconus Cult of the Wyrm. It is of an enemy dying, and the enemies are called Krujins. They're like trolls or whatever fantastical creatures, orcs, goblins, I don't know. But anyway, when they die, they sound like barnyard animals. And I'm pretty sure this is not just me. It sounds like a flock of chickens and it sounds like a squealing pig. And I'm pretty sure what they did was they just went to a farm and just recorded random barnyard animals and then just threw it into the game. So here is the sound of a Krujin dying. I was joking with my son that I should have been a voice actor because I think I could have done an excellent job for Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, especially with the effort noises of It's not that hard. But once again, I'm pretty sure they just took barnyard animals and used those as the dying sounds for the Krujin. But moving on, we have the wonderful voice of George Takei as Ann Soren.
Welcome to Selenarin. I'm Ann Soren. Stendhal has kept me updated on your progress, young Dragonsbane. The area where we keep the heart is behind me. Follow me across the bridge and I'll show you around.
So once I heard George Takei, also known as Captain Sulu, I had high hopes, thinking, okay, if you can afford a voice actor like him, then your budget must be pretty good, and this might not be a bad video game. But unfortunately, Draconus Cult of the Wyrm just goes downhill after that. The narration of Stendhal is done by Tony J, and he has the perfect voice for the narration and is very epic and is backed by some sort of, medieval drum track. So here is Tony J as Stendhal.
Lomin the Just was renowned for his heroism and wise rulership during the Nether Wars, now long forgotten. Trained as a common soldier, he earned recognition time and again for his skill in battle and ability to lead men victoriously from near certain death. He distinguished himself by personally leading his...
So while the voice acting of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm is rather talented, I would say, the script of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm is really bad. And this is an interchange of one small snippet of dialogue between Sinric the Warrior and a random Krujin... once again, one of these troll elf things that just is voiced really badly to a very bad script.
Surely they should have been able to capture the weakling elf by now. We must know the secret word.
I have a word for you. Die.
So once again, Draconus Cult of the Wyrm. The voice acting is very talented, but however, the barnyard noises of pigs and chickens sort of brings the game down a couple notches. So my overall experience with Draconus Cult of the Wyrm was not bad. I mean, I got what I expected from it. It's a simple medieval hack and slash, and for once, I actually finished a game. It's been a while since I can say that here at Two Consoles Too Late, that I actually finished a game. So that all being said, do you want to play Draconus Cult of the Wyrm? Sure, give it a shot. I picked up a copy on eBay. I got a loose copy for $22, which is exactly where Price Chart-In has this game. A complete in-box game will run you $33.73. But we are going to see a sealed copy over on Auction Alert.
Auction, 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 auction. Alert.
So a search of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm on Shop Goodwill will bring up nothing, but I did go into the sold listings, and I did find a sold copy of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, sealed, new in box. This sold on March 10th. It came from a local Shop Goodwill, the Goodwill of Greater DC and Virginia, and it sold for $101 with 8 bids. There's a little tear in the cellophane, not a bad one, but I'm guessing whoever got that, I'm guessing they got that graded. But once again, to find a copy of Draconus Cult of the Wyrm, you're going to have to hit up the eBays for that. But to do a search for Sega Dreamcast on Shop Goodwill brought up a couple goodies. The first one is a Sega Dreamcast HKT-3020, the ultimate sports gaming home console and controller. Another shitty title from another shitty Shop Goodwill. This is coming from the Goodwill industry of the Palm Beaches. This auction has 1 day and 8 hours left on the auction. With 8 bids, it's at $221. Now, why is this one stand out? Because it's the Sega Sports Edition Dreamcast in the original box. The box itself looks to be rather distressed, not too bad, but the pictures themselves leave much to be desired. It looks like it comes with the original Sega Sports controller. Looks like it comes with some memory cards. Looks like the console itself works when plugged in. And surprisingly, the battery has to be changed on this Dreamcast. Now, this is a little side note. To change the battery on a Dreamcast is very difficult. On a Saturn, it's really easy. But on a Dreamcast, you actually have to take the thing apart, get down to the motherboard to change that battery, which I thought was absolutely astounding. So every time I turn on my Dreamcast, I have to either set the date or just go past that screen. So that's one thing I was really, really surprised about with the Dreamcast, is to replace that little 2032 battery, the flat camera battery. You got to get down to the motherboard. But once again, the same model that I have, the Sega Sports Edition, this right now with the original box is at $221. So I'll be curious to see what that goes for. But another Dreamcast lot that stood out is not a Dreamcast lot. This is coming from the Goodwill of Ashtabula. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. When you click on the link to the Goodwill of Ashtabula, it's somewhere around Erie, Pennsylvania. And what you get is a Sega Dreamcast lot, 3 controllers with Madden 96 and NFL 2K. All right? This is not a Dreamcast lot. There's one game. Yeah, it's NFL 2K. So you get one Sega Dreamcast game. The Madden game is not a Dreamcast game. It is a Game Gear game. So it's a Sega lot, but not a Sega Dreamcast lot. And the controllers that you are getting are not Dreamcast controllers. 2 of them are Sega Genesis controllers. One is third party, and the other is a Sega Saturn controller. So this is a lot of Sega related items, but it is not a lot of Sega Dreamcast items. The only item of Dreamcast worthiness is the NFL 2K. But right now, with 5 days left and 6 hours left on the auction, there's 0 bids and is currently at $10.99. So if you need a Sega Saturn controller, you can get one. Or if you need 2 Sega Genesis controllers, you can get one. Or if you need a copy of Madden 96 for the Game Gear, you can get one. And that is coming from the Goodwill Industries of Ashtabula. Ashtabula? I don't know. But if I was looking for something for the Sega Dreamcast, it's actually not a game, it's not a controller, it's actually the broadband internet adapter for the Sega Dreamcast, which apparently runs a pretty penny. I don't see any here on Shop Goodwill, but I'm going to keep my eye out, and they go for a couple $100. And I'm not sure if you hooked it up to your modem through a Cat5 network cable, whether you could still play these games online or not. I'm sure the YouTubes can answer me that. All right, this has been another episode of Two Consoles Too Late. Thank you for listening. I've been the host, Jackson Keeler. You can check me out on the interwebs. Just go to Google and type in Two Consoles Too Late, and there I will be. Once again, Thy Geekdom Con is coming up in about a month, and I will be there giving my panel on retro video gaming and podcasting. It's Easter. I'm going to get out of here and go eat some ham, because that's what Easter's good for, right? Eating ham and wearing strangely colored clothing. But as always, have a good one. I love you, and goodbye. But the one thing that I'm looking for on the Sega Dreamcast is not a game or a controller. It's actually the broadband internet